If I can do anything.
Calling our commission meeting to order at 9 a.m. At this time, we're opening our meeting with invocation and pledge of allegiance by Associate Pastor Joe Atkinson of Catalyst Church.
If you will bow your heads with me. Most gracious God, our Father, thank you on behalf of all who has entered into this place on this morning. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for loving us so. God, we thank you for those who labor on behalf of the citizens of Lynn Haven. Lord, we pray for your hand of protection to be on the lives of our first responders. We pray for the men and women who proudly serve to protect all of our freedoms. Lord, we pray blessings upon the lives of our various levels of city officials, and in particular for our mayor and our city commissioners. We ask that you graciously grant them the sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues that they face, the confidence to do what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. We pray for the agenda set before them today. Lord, please give our elected officials an assurance of what will be pleasing to you and will benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Lynn Haven. It is in the blessed name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Atkinson. At this time, we open the floor for public commentary. No public commentary. At this time, we move to the mayor's report. Good to see everyone today. Want to say thank you for the wonderful 4th of July celebration that we had here in the city of Lynn Haven. Thank you to all the commissioners that were able to participate in that day on the float, going through the parade. Thank you to those that decorated it and provided, all the candy and beads. I think we actually were able to get through past the booth this time, the platform, and still have some candy remaining until we got to the other side. So I think the beads helped with that. And we actually had a lot of people that wanted beads, surprisingly. Thankfully, it didn't turn into Mardi Gras like on Bourbon Street. So everything was still clean and fun on Highway 77. So no, insanity pictures were taken. But yeah, it was a great day. Thank you to city manager and all the employees, whatever contribution you made to make sure that was a delightful day, not just for the citizens of Lynn Haven, but for the residents of Bay County. And so it was a wonderful day, wonderful celebration. Praise God, the rain held off, and so very grateful for that as well. Since our last meeting, have had an opportunity to meet with various community leaders to talk about some possible partnerships that we can do with them in the city of Lynn Haven. So looking forward to some of those things coming to fruition. Florida State University, Panama City, and a few other community leaders to see how we can continue to work together as a community. And so I'm looking forward to that. Last week was able to be a part of the auditing selection committee for Panama City. So myself, Mayor of Callaway, went in to help them review and give a point system to the possible auditors that they'll have for their audit this year. So that was just very insightful and very good to just converse with other mayors and learn about their systems as well. How do they audit? What do they think about the other auditing companies that they've worked with over the years, and be able to speak to their personnel and their staff regarding that. And so just really excited about the community relations that we have here in Lynn Haven among the other municipalities as well. Had a chance to go to the 10-year celebration for systems and engineering there. they held it out there at AL Kinsall Park earlier on last week, and so that was real exciting Friday to go by and hang out with those guys. I got to figure out how much that prime rib costs to see if I need to put that on my form to turn in. So I got to call the prime rib guy to see how much that costs, because they gave me something to go. So I got to calculate how much all that is, but maybe I go with Publix prices and grocery outlet prices, and maybe I can avoid that. But yeah, I got to go back and check that out to see how much those gifts were for the prime rib. But it was a great time and a great celebration for those who are not familiar with this company on Mosley Drive. They do a lot of great things in our community, and their work is beyond Bay County. I mean, they're doing things over in Walton County and other places as well. And so just glad that they're planted here in Lynn Haven. I think sometimes they're overlooked because they're not in the industrial park or a large commercialized area, but they do a lot of commercial work. And so just very glad that they're able to be here in our city. If you remember, a few months ago, a church came to request the Sheridan Sheffield Park as sort of the heading start point for their 5K. Well, the pastor of that church, Pastor Kyle Schutz, is also one of the owners of that company. And so it's good to have good community leaders in our community as well. So those are a few of the things I was able to do since our last meeting. Of course, like many of you, probably filling emails, returning phone calls, just trying to provide clarification to others as it relates to the water main break that happened. And so tons of phone calls, tons of emails, but was able to provide some clarity on some of that and get some good feedback from some of the citizens just on how we can maybe help improve some of our communication. But when it's an emergency, you try to get out the information that you can get out. And so everyone that I've talked with in person was thankful for the information that we were able to get out to individuals and update them in a timely manner as it related to that water main break. And also thank you to the workers and contractors and everyone that was able to help get that resolved as quick as possible, so that our citizens could have the good pressurization of water and get all those samples done in a quick manner. So very thankful for that as well. And so that's my report. Commissioner Aldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much either. It's summertime, so everyone gets into summertime mode. Even the emails seem to slack up a little bit in the summertime, but which is a good thing. I just also want to thank the employees for the July 4th festivities. I know it's a big undertaking every single year, and I realize the amount of work. I think I don't realize, I guess I should say, because I'm not there doing it all day long, but I think I understand how much work you're putting in, and I'm thankful for all of it. I also want to thank, I guess our fire department filled up our dunking tank with that water from Econfina Creek. So I want to thank you for that clean water that went up my nose 48 times. I don't think I have any amoebas or anything, but maybe next year we can get it cleaned up. But that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
So you actually counted how many times you went down.
It felt like 48 times. I'm not sure.
I remember Principal Bullock was in there, and he had a few people in line, but once you got in, I mean, man, the line filled up. I think your own children lined up for that.
Yes,
man.
they did. And my nieces and my nephews, yeah, all of them.
Commissioner Purnell.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought the 4th of July was great this year. It was amazing. I don't know about y'all, but I'm always going to remember where I was when those 2 jets came down from right over 77 from Southport and then shot up in the air. That was an amazing flyover, and it was. There isn't many towns in our country that had that happen, so we got to be grateful and thankful for that, and many other things. I'd like to normally, as I do, thank our first responders, our city employees, and thank you all for 4th of July for sure. City manager, great job, thank you. This coming Thursday is the Project Priorities Virtual Open House for it's the part of Commissioner Aldridge and I are on the TPO, and this coming Thursday at 11 a.m. is the actual workshop at the Bay County Transit, but it's also a virtual open house. So I wanted to bring light to that, and the website is Emerald Coast Regional Council.org, ecrc.org. Okay, you can go to that website, and one of the first, and it scrolls at the top, but one of the first things is Project Priorities 2022 for Bay County Transit, and you click on that, and this website appears, this right here. So at our last TPO meeting, we were shown, Harold's scrolling through the website right now, that there's a survey on the website. We'll go ahead and talk about it, Harold. There's a survey on the website. When you click on the survey, and there's questions you can answer, but I've highlighted one of the questions. It's about project priorities in State Road 390, 77 to 231, widening to 6 lanes. So you have an opportunity to let them know through this survey, and you can click high priority, low priority, or not a priority. I would think that every citizen in Lynn Haven would be encouraged and feel like they want to click high priority there. And I'm not telling anybody what to do by any chance, but I've personally taken the survey twice because I've gotten educated on some other things. But if we go back to the website at first there and scroll up, I'd like to show everybody this video. It's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And I'd like to show it for everybody to understand. It gives a great overview of the TPO in general and the 5-year work plan and how it comes to be. So I'll let the video speak for itself. So,
welcome to the Bay County Transportation Priorities Virtual Open House. We appreciate your taking time to be with us, to learn more about the priorities process, and to give your input. Annually, the Bay County Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO, reviews the transportation priorities for the urbanized areas of Bay County in Florida. Creating a list of project priorities maximizes available resources while determining how to meet the greatest needs of the region. Where do these projects come from? Project priorities come from a much larger, long-range transportation plan, LRTP for short. This plan looks out 20 to 25 years and identifies projects needed throughout the TPO region. Since it looks out so far into the future, the LRTP is amended as needed to include new projects or remove projects that are funded or no longer relevant. The LRTP consists of 2 lists of projects, the needs plan and the cost feasible plan. The needs plan consists of all transportation projects needed over the next 20 years, and the cost feasible plan consists of the top projects that we can foreseeably afford over the next 20 years. And that's where the project priorities come from, the cost feasible plan. Once the TPO determines what is actually feasible for our budgeted dollars, we start prioritizing how these projects will get accomplished. These priorities are submitted to the Florida Department of Transportation for potential funding in the next 5 years. Projects are selected for funding based upon local priority, funding availability, and project timing. The final list of selected projects that will be FDOT funded is referred to as the 5-year work program. The list of all state and locally funded projects is the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, and is available online for public viewing. This list of projects will give you a good idea of what will be implemented over the next 5 years. There are several categories of funding for transportation projects, and each category must be prioritized. To ensure that transportation needs are met, we need your input. You can find an abundance of information and how you can share your thoughts.
so the website is www.ecrc.org. So, and Thursday at 11 a.m. at the Bay County Transit is the public workshop. I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Also, I did meet with upon my travels and everyday life, I met with a lady who lives in Mowat Highlands, who was very adamant, very concerned resident about the situation over there with the new housing development, the flooding. She says there's other citizens involved too. So I just want to make sure that we don't forget about what's going on over there, and that people need to have a correction to what their way of life has been. Her words to me were, this housing development is gonna be put in place, but it's not gonna do, it's stormwater is gonna retain everything, and there's not gonna be anything different according to what the engineers and everyone has said. She's attended meetings and whatnot. She said, that's all well and good, but they were flooding before. They were having issues before. So she's hoping that her issues are not exacerbated by this, or they could be corrected. So I asked her, if she wanted to come to the meeting or meet with and she's kind of felt like she's met with people and she's not being listened to. So
What subdivision? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Mowat Highlands.
Mowat.
Yeah. And I'd like to see if I know you're still in communication with them as far as, and there's concerned citizens over there, but I'd just like to bring it to light in my report.
Did she give you an address in Mowat Highlands?
No, but I can get that information because she works nearby where my business is, and she's bent my ear pretty good, and I told her I would echo her sentiments at the meeting, even though she doesn't want to be identified. So, but I'll let y'all know who she is, and we could probably reach out to her and try to address her concerns. That's all I'm asking for those people. So, two things came to light from talking to a gentleman who drove his boat home from Shell Island or thereabouts watching 4th of July fireworks. At night when you're traveling the bay in a boat, he said that you cannot see the power lines. The FPL power lines are not lit up as well as they should be across the water. So I wanted to bring that to the attention of anyone who can address the concerns, whether we needed or whether there actually is. I don't know, because I wasn't in the boat, but I was just echoing what the gentleman said. And he also said that at the boat ramp on Porter Park, he said, which is the best boat ramp in Bay County, he said he spoke highly of it, but I won't use the term that he used, but similar to a burrow. So some people have to park right next to the boat ramp, which is not where you should park. The two spaces nearest the boat ramp are for people to stage, get their belts ready, and get ready to launch their boat. And he says consistently people park there, and then other boaters yell at them to move so people can get in there, stage their boat, and then get into the ramp. So he asked if we could, and I'll get him involved with whoever, but he asked if we could put a no parking sign for 2 spaces closest to parking for staging only. And I thought I'd bring that to y'all's attention, that we could potentially work on that and get with the people who launch their boats and see what's proper, see what's good etiquette, or whether we even need to do it or what. But he'd like to see that there's a little staging area, it's a little gravel area right next to the boat ramp. Bobby, if you know what I'm talking about, okay. So, and then I just had some, and then I had another citizen express concerns. They live down by in that same vicinity, but they're concerned about it's a small apartment complex down there near Michigan and 3rd, and said it's not in good condition, and they're very concerned about it. So they think there might be mold there and whatnot. So I told them, we would try to see what we could do to address things. But there is a tenant in there, but there's only one, and it's like a multi-unit place. So I don't know if the other units are not inhabitable or what, but I thought I'd bring that up as well. So I hate to take up too much time and have all the audio visual and everything, but I wanted to make it a good report, and I thank you for your time, sir.
No, that's great. In regards to Mowat Highlands, yes, please let us know.
Yeah.
The resident and the citizen.
I'll get with you after the meeting, because this woman said she was face to face with you too, and she's still got the hair on the back of her neck up, so I think she's someone we need to talk to. So
Sure, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe last year we did go out to Mowat Highlands, brought Panhandle Engineering out, a couple of their engineering guys. We did address those issues with them, and they brought the plan out to say, hey, this is the new plan. That plan has actually been completed. So and then we brought them back out because we did get some complaints from some additional citizens in Mowat Highlands. So we did bring them back out to allow the citizens, those neighbors that were there, on Dundee to express their concern about where they still saw some water and various things there. But from what was explained to me, as well as those citizens, and this was, you weren't at that one, this was after that.
Oh.
So we had that one, the work was done, and then some complaints were still made. So we came back out again to have some more conversations about it. And so in some instances, it's actually been maximized as to what they can actually do in some of those areas as it relates to the culverts and those things, the pipes, all of that has been maximized and part of it. And so I think part of the concern for that citizen was who owned what property. So GCUC, Panhandle, they can't go and fix the stormwater on someone else's property. And so I think those property lines it was trying to figure out who owns what particular property as it went up to 390 or 389. And so that was the last time we went out, that was one of the concerns was, okay, well, who's going to clean this part and who's going to clean out this river part of it?
Her concerns were about the creek as well, all the way down, past, because she felt like it's, it's not, the reason that flooding's happening is that the creek's not cleaned further down, so that's what she's concerned about. Bobby, if I can ask you again, I hate to put you in my report, but we had a meeting just recently with the Northwest Florida Water Management District, the head of the St. Joe Bay, San Andrews Bay Estuary Program, and was Keith Bryant from Bay County. I got commissioner's blessing to have, and I sat in on the meeting because I'm involved in those things, but we potentially have an opportunity right around the 17th Street Delaware area, right behind Mowat Highlands. There's some water. There's a natural waterway there, or it's more like a pond. There's stormwater retention there, right? Or no? But we can we're looking at hopefully expanding it through potentially getting a grant, and that might solve some of the issues over there, correct?
There's an existing stormwater there.
Right. Right. And that would even involve the Mowat Highlands stormwater going into that, correct?
Yes, that northern phase.
Yeah.
Mowat Highlands.
Would that help the other area out front where the creek runs and stuff, or?
No, not so much,
That's
because
what
that north stage runs that way.
Okay.
The entrance, it runs to the creek.
So that would be just where the front people, the people on the other side of the road,
Right,
and the ones that butt up to the new housing.
right. And the creek would bypass that pond, so it wouldn't go into that pond.
Okay, it wouldn't go with that. Okay. All right. Well, I'll stand corrected on that, but I should have mentioned in my report that I did have a meeting with Bobby and those folks as far as regarding.
But it would help Pine Forest, and that area.
Yeah.
But the other thing is they're supposed to be replacing that culvert on Dundee, which I don't know if that will help with the creek flow.
Yes. Yeah, it
Where the
backs
water
up
goes,
out there.
where I've been told the water goes over the road when we get a hard rain.
When it rains, when we get a lot of rain, yes.
Yes, that is correct.
And that's one of the HMGP
That is correct.
grants that we're working on.
Right.
Do we have a timeline on when that would come around, or because we need a bigger part of the road? That's
Chris is going to give
Right-
us, Chris is
right
going to
now,
give
it's
us an
only
update.
scheduled for engineering only,
okay.
not construction.
Okay.
And we can ask some of these questions in our stormwater report whenever
Stormwater.
Yeah,
Chris
I
comes in.
figured I'm putting the cart before the horse a little bit. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Perner. Commissioner Ward?
First thing I want to say is, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I can hear a lot easier now with the sound system. So
Yeah.
you guys are a lot clearer. So whatever that you guys did, thank you. It helps a lot. The July 4th parade, yeah, I thought it went awesome. Yep, we had enough candy and beads through the whole thing. I had to strong arm some people so that we could pace ourselves and make sure we got some at the end. But and
He was hogging it.
and yeah, the F-35s coming by. That was awesome. Going right down 77 while we were in the parade. So yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. And there was a lot more people out there than I was expecting because I knew it was kind of wasn't sure whether it was going to rain or not, and a lot of people still showed up, so that was awesome. And the last thing I have is I did something this past Friday that I got one more thing after that. Something I wish I did earlier. I went to the supervisor elections, got a tour of the facility. I don't know if you guys have done that. It's Mark Anderson. I think he's an awesome individual. We are extremely lucky to have an outstanding supervisor elections. And he always amazes me with everything that he does. And he showed me all the machines and how they do everything. Nothing is done by just one person. It's always a minimum of two people. And then he talked to me about how he's got two machines that count the ballots.
Yeah.
So if they're
We're
off,
one of the only places.
you can figure out why it's off. And that, in fact, the one system he has is getting ready to be certified by the state. And I know Mark Anderson has gotten a lot of attention to how he runs his things to other counties in Florida. So we are extremely lucky. And I can tell you, I feel 100% confident that our elections in Bay County are safe and secure. And one of the things I learned was it wasn't always like that in Bay County. I did not realize that. A long, long time ago, it was ran a lot differently than it is now. So, I have one other thing. Oh, yeah, and of course I got a lot of the emails and phone calls and everything when we had loss of water pressure. So thank you to the city for actively working that and getting that done. Because I know there was a lot of concerned residents. So I appreciate all the work that went into that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender.
Thank you. I agree, the sound is so much better. I can actually hear what you're saying. Until today, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Well, I have a few things that have gone on the last couple of weeks. First, I want to say, whoever built the stairs for our float, you will have my forever gratitude. Those were some serious stairs, and I loved it personally. Yeah, everything about the 4th of July was spot on. The parade was great. In the last couple of weeks, I've dealt with some issues in the 900 block of Colorado. And I did go by and see that we've got some piping out there to possibly start working on that. I hate to hear when residents say they're going to move, and they're just going to move for things that we can fix. But I think we're heading in the right direction on that. The other thing I was just talking to somebody about, and I need to get with whoever does the permitting on that ordinance as far as lot size and everything. I have two houses down by me on 7th Street, 7th and Alabama, in that area, and they are building two houses right on top of each other. I don't even know how they're going to have a driveway to get in off the street. So I'd be interested in whoever's in charge of that. Let me know how they're getting away with that. Now, this has been brought to my attention by more than one person. So I just want to publicly say, so there are no more questions. City employees of Lynn Haven are allowed to represent, to back financially, and with their efforts, any candidate they want to back. They are allowed to put signs in their yards. They're allowed to give them money. They're allowed to hand out flyers. They're allowed to do any of those things that volunteers do. The only difference is they can't use their position. They cannot go out there and do all these things in uniform. They can't do, things going, well, yes, I'm this, or that, or they can't identify themselves or what kind of job they have. But I've had so many concerns about that, so I just want to say it publicly. Nobody's breaking the law, okay? And then the other thing, speaking of law, I had to bring this up, and I'm sure not one commissioner up here has not thought of this. When I saw on the news last week about the nearby commission over in the Walton area, all having credit cards. Now, I did want to ask, I wanted to ask the city manager, number one, do any of us have a credit card?
No, ma'am,
A
you
city
do
credit
not.
card? We do not. And then my other question was, how many actual credit cards does the city have that employees have use of?
They're given to the department heads, so I think it's 12 maybe, so no,
I think it's
25, okay.
20, 25?
25, so usually the department heads and usually the assistant department head of that one, so usually about 20, yeah, about 25.
About 25. And then do we have a special, not maybe a special, but an extra measure to compare those charges
Yes.
to
It is
verify and
long,
get receipts
yes.
and all that?
It
Okay.
is a long and arduous process, I can tell you, and our finance department spent a lot of time going through each thing that they've used the credit card for and validating that. They must have receipts with those. So it is very well, we continue to talk to our staff and make sure they're following the purchasing policy on that.
Awesome. So, all right, well, I'm glad to hear that. I knew I didn't have a credit card, and I didn't think any of these guys did, but I just wanted to make sure. I think that's everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
Yes, before I go into my report, I'm just going to ask Kiki to come and do the warrant update.
Good morning. Questions about the warrant list?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
The last item, we can shade it for $10,100. Where did we put that shade?
Those are at King Griffin and Kinsall.
So that's two shades? Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And those were replacements, you know, when the storm came along
Right.
and
So FEMA paid for that?
no, not Hurricane Michael, when we
Oh.
had we've had a numerous amount of storms and at some points they stretch them. They're no good. We just have to replace them.
It's just the canvas.
Oh, okay.
Just the canvas part.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay. And then stormwater update.
Good morning. Not too much has changed since last month. A lot of waiting on materials and labor is our biggest holdup on projects, but here we go. There we go. Our 19th and Montana drainage improvements projects. Our box culvert has been ordered. I'm still awaiting on a firm delivery date from Old Castle on that one. The company has mobilized their equipment there and is just waiting on getting the box culvert on site to start the demolition and laying the new one. Our East 10th Street plans, which is from Pennsylvania to Illinois Avenue, are 30% complete. We will be going through those and making any changes we feel necessary to continue to move to get those plans complete. Our dredging, which is our legislative stormwater appropriation, the field work for the survey is underway. We actually received 3 of the surveys this morning of the sites. So they will continue to work through those and get our survey and permitting done for our dredging. The 1600 block of Indiana, the structures are on site, the loader's on site, and the crew and the piping are supposed to be out there on the 13th, which is tomorrow, per an email that they sent us last week. That project will move pretty quick, so hopefully by next month's update, we will have a almost near complete project on that one. Our East 7th Street drainage improvements project, we had our pre-con was held on the 9th. Currently working through our submittal process and getting our materials ordered for that project. And the 1500 and 1600 block of Alabama and Virginia, engineers continuously working on design on that. We hope to have a set of plans, hopefully by the end of the month, to start reviewing on that project. Some good news from DOT is they are continuously working on drainage improvements as part of the 390 resurfacing project from 77 to 231. These projects these pictures were taken right on 14th Street near Illinois Avenue. There's regraded the ditches there. They put in some piping and put in some ditch inlets to help improve the drainage that comes from our 1400 and 1500 blocks there in our city. Here's our map from just that we update continuously throughout the year. And then our in-house work, mowing, as you have guessed it, probably at your house as well, is crazy. We have to mow every week. So staff is continuously mowing throughout the city. And then culvert replacements. We have 30 failing pipe work orders on the books right now. We have 5 customer paid work orders. We have 20 additional pipe work orders that are from where our vac truck goes around. And we are down about 4 employees right now. We also have some folks out with sick and vacation time. So those work orders take, like this pipe job here takes about 3 to 4 days to complete. We have the 1 crew doing it. So that is where all of those work orders, kind of pile up. And that's what is the most time extensive for the stormwater department. And one thing that did not make it on this slide is we finally received our paperwork for our Acme Lane drainage improvements. So that gives us everything we need for our 7 HMGP approved, which is Dundee, Pine Forest, Bradley Circle, Acme Lane, 11th Street. Missing 2 more. We've mentioned them here. And they will be, our RFQ for design will go out shortly for those 6 or 7 approved projects.
Question. I know a few months ago, we had talked about cooperating with the county as it related to the creek there in Mowat Highlands. Do you have any, I know there was some permitting and different things we had to go through.
McCain Creek was actually cleaned out after Hurricane Michael. All the debris and everything was out of the creek. One of the biggest things that hold up, which I think there was an article posted the other day, is the state waterways. For example, Econfina Creek. But the state waterways that like McCain Creek leads to have still not been cleaned out. That is one thing, we talked about with the county about teaming up and trying to get this, encourage the state to get their waterways cleaned out. The state likes to try to enforce a lot of things, but they haven't done their due diligence as well on cleaning out those waterways. So they ran out of money, and a lot of the waterways, if you drive down 389 and right past the cemetery, you take a look over into that water body there, and you can see all the trees laid across. And that really has a hindrance on stormwater flow in areas where it blocks it up. But that is one thing we are discussing with the county, is trying to encourage the state to get those cleaned out as quickly as possible.
Because I do know in conversations with those that live in Mowat Highlands around the Dundee and the Creek area, we can explain that to them, but of course their visualization is there wasn't this rise in the creek until the new development came, and so their correlation to the rise in the creek is actually dealing with the new development.
Right.
Is what they're saying, and I can say whenever I'm going down Dundee, if it's not raining, there's a particular house there, I think right before you maybe turn right on Pentland, I think it is. I can't remember exactly where it's located, but you're going down Dundee, it's a house right there on the right. I can't remember the address of it, but the creek basically runs right in their backyard, and they have a little wall there.
Yes.
And so
White 2-story house there. Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
when it's not raining, it's fine. There's no water in there. I mean, the creek is flowing fine, maybe 6 inches to a foot there. But when it does rain, maybe like it did on yesterday, I mean, it rises up almost into their yard, which is maybe about a 4-foot difference. And so those have been some of the concerns that they've expressed over the time. And I know we have been talking about getting the creek cleaned out in coordination with the county. And so just wondering where we were with that process.
Well, and the creek has been cleaned out, from all the debris, but a lot of folks have talked about, widening and cleaning the creek bottom, which was not allowed during the hurricane cleanup. You could only clean debris, so you couldn't widen or deepen the creek past its original state. But a lot of the master plan talked about widening and deepening McCain Creek there, which is not an approved HMGP project, but will be, considered down the road further. But a lot of the holdup is the state waterways there.
Got it. And I guess one final question on that, and certainly not wanting to put you or the county on the spot here publicly, but all of McCain Creek doesn't, belong to Lynn Haven, or is not within our city limits. Some of it is in the county side.
Correct.
So is there something the county could do on their side of McCain Creek that could maybe help Mowat Highlands side of McCain Creek?
I mean, really, it would just be to deepen or widen the creek, which may not even be able to be permitted to do through the Army Corps or the Northwest Water Management. But as far as debris clean, it's all been cleaned, but not much right now that can be done on widening it or deepening it.
So our focus, I guess, as commissioners, then our focus needs to be trying to contact someone at the state to see if we can get 390
Perfect.
cleaned up. and
Water,
how
state
that-
waterways need to be cleaned for sure.
Would a formal letter from our commission and to be a step to our state representative?
Anything that the commission reaches out to the state and, just like with the TPO, anything that
Would
do.
you be able to identify the state waterways impinging?
We
in
can
the
provide you
neighborhood?
a map that show,
That would be a good thing for us as a body to probably formally send a letter to our state representative regarding the cleanup of the state waterways that have a direct effect on our stormwater, in our city.
And I think in addition to that, not sure where that timing would be for our current state representative, but certainly for the two that are coming in, the candidates that are running for that as part of our, our list of priorities as the city of Lynn Haven to say, hey, this is what we need our state representative to have a voice on for us to help us here as well. So I think that could be, not saying not to reach out to our current state representative. Certainly think that's
I know.
something we can do, but because elections are happening in August, so for that position, so to be able to go and say, hey, let's make this a priority for.
Those are primary elections, right? Those are.
Well, it's primary, but there's no one running on the opposite side. So
And in November, this is the actual election, correct?
no, for state representative, there's no one running on the Democratic or independent ticket.
So whoever is, okay.
So whoever wins the primary actually wins the seat. So that'll be our state representative, whoever wins that seat in the primary election. The Senate election does have the primary, and then the general election in November is for the state Senate seat for that. So
Well, I know Mr. Trumbull said he was going to get with me mid-July, so got about less than a week, so hopefully he contacts me.
That'd be good.
So if he does, I'll bring that up.
Yeah.
any other stormwater questions for Mr. Lightfoot?
Yes. I think we talked about this before, but on the one page, when you talked about the DOT drainage improvements, I went down to Bel Air Estates when we had all that rain, we lost water pressure and all that. And they got those creeks that were kind of backing up, and a lot of that had to do with the 390 construction, right? Which
Correct.
is part of this.
correct. So not on this slide. This slide here references the drainage improvements from 231 to 77, which is it's not
Okay.
the widening project, it's the resurfacing project. However, Miss Vicky and Bobby had a meeting with DOT while I was on vacation, and they discussed that crossing there at Greenbrier, and they are awaiting the box culvert to be delivered so they can finish that. I believe that will be the last crossing that affects us. And as soon as that box culvert gets in, and the contractor needs it because they can't continue putting base down or anything in that area until it's done. So it is a big push from us, DOT, and the contractor on the vendor.
That's very true.
And I know we talked about this before, but the subdivision next to Moat Highlands, if you watch the water, the gutter there, the last one that comes in, a lot of that water doesn't go in that drain because it's off to the side, and it's going downhill a little bit. And I know we talked about to see if they could divert that so most of that water goes into the drain. Have you looked at that at all?
Yeah, we're looking at different options there of what we can do to,
Okay.
what you and I met on site with the resident to look at.
And you said you're down 4 employees?
We have 4 openings. We have 3 equipment operator positions and 1 maintenance worker position. And then we have some folks out sick and vacation, and we have some retirements coming up. So if you know anybody want a job, send them our way. We definitely need some more help.
How long they been advertised for now?
We had 2 equipment operators probably advertised for a month or 2. Maintenance worker about a month. We have lots of applications, but we have lots of people that don't answer the phone for interviews, or they accept a position with higher wages, or they work a day and don't come back after being in the heat. So
So you're having a hard time filling these positions?
there is a hard time filling lots of positions, yes.
So I know a lot of the work that we've done, we've contracted out. We've done all the ditches. I think, what was it? They contracted out about, was it 80%?
So we dug about 70,000 feet of ditches with our contractor at $3 a foot. And we've also done, not stormwater related, but we've done a lot of concrete work through a contractor as well.
So is it more expensive for us to contract that work out, or just as expensive, or? cheaper.
The
to-
ditch digging and the concrete work has been much cheaper to contract out versus
Really?
hiring more people in-house.
Okay.
And this is a pretty common problem, I think, and don't hold me to these numbers, but Panama City Public Works, I think, has 80 openings or 80 budgeted positions in their Public Works Department. And I think they had 36 people employed there, and that's in their streets and drainage, signs and marking, the field guys. So it's a problem, in every municipality that's in the Panhandle, or probably in the country, but for sure in the Panhandle. Is the economy's booming, contractors are paying way more than what a municipality can pay, and it's really tough to fill these positions right now.
Would it be worth looking into contracting some of this stuff out, or? I know, I mean,
it all
I know there's a
depends
lot of
upon our-
variables in place.
Yeah.
Yes, it depends
It-
upon our
it
budget.
really
I
is.
mean, and you've got to look at the budget, and you really got to
Right.
decide which way you want to go. Do you want to have X amount of positions in the budget and try to, do the work in-house? Or do you want to have more money in your operating to contract more out? It
Okay.
would really just have to be a financial look at it to see which route would be the best
So
to
it'd
take.
probably be a good thing to discuss when we go over the annual budget then.
Yes. We are looking at both of those, and as if you know, the former city manager did do a lot of contract work out. And a lot of times, when you have contractors, they hold up your work too because they have so much work. If our work is not as large as a project they're working on,
Right.
then that's going to hold it up as where we can jump on it fairly quickly. And that's one of the reasons it is so important to have employees in place, because if there is an emergency, we can literally deploy those employees very quickly as opposed to calling a contractor. So there's some pros and cons to
Right.
both.
Okay, thank you.
Does that have, if I may, does that have any bearing on our push button contracts with contractors?
So the push button that you all approved is really for emergencies. It's really not intended to do our everyday work unless our everyday work gets so far behind. For example, mowing. We do have a mowing line item, but the only way that we would pursue that is if we were so shorthanded that the mowing was just getting so far, so out of hand that we were receiving multiple calls on getting mowing caught up.
So if we get far enough behind on some other projects, we would be able to solicit push button?
Correct. Our major push, for the push button is emergency utility repairs, water and sewer, emergency road repairs. If a culvert caved in and we
Yeah.
lost a road.
I get that.
We bid out concrete, and I think that was approved in December, and that was to kind of catch up some of our 400 and something number of concrete work orders. We're able to do that and do it more efficient with the contract. But like Ms. Vicky's saying, if you have a contractor, but you only have a little bit of work for them, they're
Right.
going to push you back. So the more work that they get, the quicker response and the better prices you're going to get with it.
So possibly in the future, we can add this to the scope of work on the push button and utilize it?
I
If
think
you
this
have
would be,
approved contractors?
If you would want, so Panama City Beach, they just did a bid for asphalt. They don't use a push button for asphalt. Our push button would be for a cave-in where, it was hindering traffic flow or an emergency. The push button is really for emergency stuff only, in our case. If the commission directed to do a certain project or a certain task, then that would need to be bid out individually. Like the
Okay.
concrete work or the ditch work.
Okay. Oh, by the way, 13th Street in Florida, thank you for
It's very
paving.
smooth.
Yeah, it's very smooth over there.
I'd like to, the mower that we have, the robotic mower.
The
I
RC
take it we're using that.
Yes.
And that's saving us a lot of manpower in that.
It's a lot quicker. I think the analysis was it was like 14 guys weed eating or 12 guys weed eating.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to have your skill set, operating the mower. But yes, we're utilizing it on our ponds, our steep right of ways, our ditch banks, et cetera.
So it's not a matter of just using a Sony PlayStation controller and controlling it, right?
It's a fancy PlayStation controller, pretty much.
But I'd like to talk more about the contracting thing we're talking about at a pre-commission meeting if we could.
Yeah.
I got I got some ideas rolling in my head, but I think it requires some discussion.
I think we have some opportunities there.
Yeah. Thanks.
And by the way, on 13th Street, Florida, New York, you guys paved right up to people's driveways and butted up flush. And I thought that was pretty good. You know, you didn't leave a gap where they dropped down.
Yeah, the contractor did.
Yeah, they did a really
great
good
on
job.
that one.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. To finish up the report, which you mentioned about our IT, that is Samuel and Harold. We did have a meeting at our last commission, after our last commission meeting, because we knew that the sound was really not sounding good, and it was really from the electrical hit that we took. Got a lot of those things fixed. Samuel came in over the weekend and really did a great job of putting in some new sound system. And then we are looking at some other ways to put some mics in where people can hear better. So we're going to be trying that out as well. Again, the 4th of July was awesome. I thank Rotary for taking at the helm the pancake breakfast. I think they made somewhere around $2,200, which is pretty good. And so we thank everyone, Eglin Air Force Base for doing the F-35s for us, Tyndall and all the dignitaries that came out and wanted to be a part. They thought it worthy to attend our parade. And it was a great night in terms of fireworks, and a great day for a parade. Just thank all of the staff who worked really hard. Like I've said before, we start this process in March, and then we end it in July, and it takes a team. It is a literal team, head by Sophia and Meredith. So we thank the communications department as well. Thank you, Joe Footen, Commissioner Tender. If you want to know who put those steps together, I think that was Joe that put those steps together for you. And then the water main break, I did want to chat a little bit about that as well. When we have those kind of emergencies where we don't know where it is, it makes it a little difficult for us to get the information out really fast. We never want to put out incorrect information, not knowing the information. So we literally deployed everyone, including myself, going out, police, fire, public works, looking to see where water was bubbling up so that we could find that break. And to our surprise, Bobby Baker found it. It took us over an hour to find just where it was. And then finally we found it, and we were able to secure it and work with the contractor, some of our city employees, to get it done really, really fast. And so that is very, very important when it comes to those kind of breaks. And that takes me into my next subject, which is the Tyler Notify. In the next couple of weeks, many residents will be receiving maybe some type of text, email, phone call to enroll. We will automatically enroll you in what's called Tyler Notify. So when something like this happens, people don't automatically start to call the city, because one of the things that happened is that our phones crashed because everyone was calling asking what was going on. So we will be able to push that information out to you very quickly, just really at a push of the button. And we can do it in zones. We don't have to do everyone. So say a water break or something happens in a certain area, then we will just do that zone. Or there's a road closure in a certain area, we can just do that zone, or we can do the entire city. So this week, we will have a area that we will test model, and I just encourage every resident to sign up for this, because it will be about sewer spills, road closure, water main breaks, all of those things that we know are important to you, and that we can get the information out very, very quickly. So look for that on the website, look for it in Facebook, and then many of the residents will be receiving either email, phone, or text saying sign up for it. And we're going to do it in phases so that as we get questions, we can answer those questions, then we can go to the next zone and get those our residents signed up for that. We I had the opportunity to do a video for the Arc of the Bay. They will be celebrating their 65th year here in Bay County, and they've done a phenomenal job of that. July 18th, just a reminder, we will be having the visioning for Florida Avenue, and we invite you all to come out. Lynn Cherry and Carpe Diem will be leading and facilitating that. We want to hear from residents, and the commissioners will be in listening mode while the residents give their thoughts on some of the things that they like to see as we revitalize Florida Avenue. The ice machine is up and running at Porter Park. We actually tried it out this past weekend of 4th of July. It works really well. And just so Commissioner Perno, you're aware, there are signs out there that say no parking. Now, whether people adhere to that, that's a different story. But there are signs out there that say no parking. And then those other things that you have talked about, we will definitely put those on our list. Our resident newsletter, we pushed it back just a little bit. So it's going to go out at the end of July. And if the communications has asked you for something, we ask you to get it in really quickly so we can get that resident newsletter out. We have informed all residents on the west side about the visioning workshop, and they should be receiving those in the mail very soon. And then we are making progress on our annual report, and we hopefully will have that out at probably about the beginning of October, because that will end our fiscal year. As we now are meeting with department heads and planning for a budget for the fiscal year. When it comes to the budget, it takes, again, a long time, because we will meet with departments, see what their needs are, and go from there. I think that is all of my report, and yes, that is.
Thank you. City Attorney.
Just one thing, we did the 4 nuisance abatement properties this year and put liens on there. Obviously, we have a system in place where we can collect those liens on the tax bill. So if that's something we want to do, it's really a 2-step process. We'll do an initial resolution, which we could do the next meeting. The deadline is September 14th to do the final resolution, and that'll just affect those 4 properties. If those liens are not paid, by then, it'll go on the tax bills November 1st. So we'll be bringing those resolutions back for the next couple meetings. That's all I have.
Any questions for our city attorney? All right, thank you. At this time, we have our consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that we would like to pull off for discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Aldridge, second by Commissioner Perno. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. Agenda item number 11 for new business, review of the appearance standard draft ordinance for city aesthetics design for our planning and economic development directors.
I did not do a presentation for this because you had the draft ordinance in the packets, but I'll just give a brief overview, and then I'm going to go through the draft ordinance with you, pointing out the changes to the existing ULDC. So as an overview, this draft ordinance proposes to amend certain sections of the Unified Land Development Code to add specific design standards for all non-residential structures. The design standards will not apply to buildings located within industrial parks. We have left it so that they would apply to business parks, because in the future you might want to have some professional business parks with offices and nice landscaping, that kind of thing. The background to this is that the City Commission had expressed a desire to change the land development regulations to improve the aesthetics of non-residential structures and lots within the city. And over the past couple of years, there have been a series of workshops where the Commission have discussed possible amendments to the ULDC to improve the appearance. At the last workshop, which was held on May 24th, Ben Janke gave you all a presentation showing you basically what was in the current requirements for the CRA district as far as appearance standards, and how they did not allow such things as, metal buildings or whatever, or certain structures, and we did not have anything in the regular code. And so the Commission asked staff to draft an ordinance that would create the desired amendments to the code and bring the city up to the same standards as currently required for the community redevelopment area. The appearance standards section would bring new construction and redevelopment projects into compliance with Chapter 6 of the Storefront Design Guidelines adopted by the Community Redevelopment Agency. The other amended sections bring changes to signage, which was something that was mentioned, parking, and landscaping. The amendments would implement changes in the areas of building materials, color selection, architectural details, signage, parking, landscaping, upkeep. This draft ordinance will go to, after your discussion, obviously we'll make any changes to it that you might want to have made, and then it would go to the Planning Commission on August the 2nd, if you wish, for their recommendation, and then come back to you for a first reading of the ordinance on August 9th. So you're discussing it today, but you get to see it again. So this is a discussion, and then it would go to the Planning Commission, then come back to you for a first reading, and then back to you again for a second reading, public hearing, final reading. So you'll still get opportunities to discuss the ordinance. So I think you all have a copy of this ordinance. I'm just going to quickly go through and point out the things that have been changed. The first section that was changed was section 4.01.04, where the language new construction and redevelopment projects shall comply with Chapter 6 of the Storefront Design Guidelines adopted by the Community Redevelopment Agency was put in there. It's easier to put it in there by reference than the whole document. We don't want that in there because that's a lot, that's huge, and we don't want that in our ULDC. So we're doing it by reference. And it also states new construction and redevelopment projects located within an industrial park do not have to comply with this section. So industrial buildings in an industrial park. We do have some industrial properties that are not an industrial park, such as that property that's on the corner of Minnesota and the one that came to you recently, where they're putting a new building on there. And although it's an industrial parcel, it does have commercial and residential around it. Had this ordinance been in place, we would have been able to make sure that they made that new building more attractive. So that's the kind of thing that we would be able to do.
So why are we omitting the industrial parks again?
Because in industrial parks, they're usually self-contained areas that are focused on manufacturing, as opposed to when you've got just a vacant industrial lot that maybe is surrounded by commercial or residential. And business parks are different from industrial parks in that business parks are usually professional parks. So you'll have offices, and you might want to have little recreation areas, landscaping, trees, that kind of thing. Ben Ben can probably speak to you on this. Ben felt that the industrial parks proper should not be included in it.
And the reason I ask, because I do know we have the industrial park that's further out that really, unless you're working out there, you don't go past. But we're building this nice sports complex, which the industrial park is the road that I take to get to it, and nearly everyone else that's off 389, Mowood Highlands, all those other subdivisions, they turn into the industrial park off 389 versus turning off 390.
Exactly. And we can include industrial parks. That's entirely up to you. Right now, this is just the draft ordinance. But if you want us to take that bit out so that it does include everything that is not residential, we can do that, certainly.
Just to clarify, we only have one industrial park, and that's the Hugh Nelson Industrial Park on Arthur Drive. So the
So the
park that you're
sign,
referring to, right next to the sports complex, is actually a commerce park.
gotcha. So we need, so, but the sign says industrial park.
The sign is incorrect.
So I can't tell y'all to change it, but I would recommend that we change it because when I see it, it says industrial park.
Yes, sir.
I got a permanent marker in my car. I'll change it on my way home.
Got it. So if it's a commerce park, then would commerce parks be included in this ordinance? Because she's mentioning business park, so would commerce park fall under
Yes.
that business park ordinance?
Yes, the commerce park on Aberdeen Parkway, Aberdeen Loop is included. The design standards would apply to that park,
Okay. All right, thank you.
and we'll change that sign.
Thank you.
I can kind of understand the industrial tracks being excluded, the actual industrial tracks, because you have these 100,000 square foot facilities. I mean, it's just not cost effective if it's not just a metal building, basically. So I can understand that, but I see what you're saying there. We don't want to have a beautiful park and then have, you know, the skewed timeline from Back to the Future right across the street. So
Right.
I'm with you on that as well.
Thank you. The next change that I want to point out is one that deals with the placement of parking on commercial properties. Currently, the setbacks for buildings on the rear of a parcel for commercial is 0, which means that if there's a vacant commercial parcel, they can put the building right at the back and have the parking at the front, which most of them have done. We want to try and encourage some of these businesses when they're being redeveloped or if they're new to put parking behind the building to make it more attractive along the roadway. And so we would like to change that rear setback, minimum rear setback from 0 to 40. I feel like if it's 40, they're going to have to look at the space they've got on that lot. They'll probably be more inclined then to think, oh, I've got to have 40 at the back so I can put my parking at the back, because otherwise it'll be wasted space. They've got their parking, maybe their stormwater, and it might also encourage them with their landscape buffering as well. So we're not requiring people put their parking behind, but if we change that rear setback, it might just mean that some of them haven't got the space to put the parking up front and they're going to have to put the parking behind, like at the Social Security building, where all the parking's at the back. So that is the second proposed change. The next change is simply removing under the design standards for all commercial development, we're taking out D, where it says brick, wood, or masonry material shall be used for building facades facing the street, because it doesn't need to be in there when they're adhering to the new section, the whole section. So it's kind of redundant in there. So we're taking that out. The next change is under the landscaping, specifications for landscaping and vegetation. We are adding, because they are required to have irrigation systems, however, we're adding that automatic irrigation systems shall be installed prior to the installation of plants to make sure that the irrigation goes in there. They all put it in and then they put the plants in. And then, you know, we do have already in our code mechanisms by where they are required to upkeep the maintenance of that landscaping, and they are required to if anything dies off, they're supposed to replace it. And as we had seen following Hurricane Michael, we had lost a lot of plants and they had not been replaced. And also buildings, you know, businesses do it. I happened to catch one. It was, I think it might have been last year or the beginning of this year. I was driving by the little, one of the little strip malls there, used to have the Bellissimo hair salon on 77. It's got the pay loan thing or whatever. There's a few little businesses there. And it happened to be a weekend. I was driving by on a Saturday and there was a truck and a huge trailer there and they were pulling out all the plants. So they do it. If they do it at the weekend, people aren't as likely to see it and notice it. But I saw it, and so I made the call on Monday to find out what was going on and to tell them, look, you can't. If you want to change out what's there, you have to bring in a landscape design to us, because what was in there was approved by the commission, and it met code. You can't just pull it out. You have to, we can approve another one, but it has to meet code. So one of the most difficult things for us is knowing when people do that kind of thing, and when plants die, they can die and we may not notice that they've died. So we're going to try and work out some kind of a system with code enforcement, whereby when a new development is been approved, we can make them aware of it in the landscape plan, because they're driving around the city all the time. So hopefully they'll notice, because we don't have a person to do that specifically. But anyway, we're putting that in, hoping that'll help. We're taking out the standards for corridor overlay district, Highway 390, Highway 77. We're taking all of that out because we don't need it now, because they're complying with the CRA standards. All that we're leaving in is the requirement that seasonal sales shall not occupy any required parking spaces, parking lot aisles, or required landscaping buffers or areas, and the access management section. So we're taking all the design stuff out, but leaving the practical operational stuff in. On the signage, standards for permanent signs, we are changing, if you agree, we are changing the current maximum height from 18 feet to 10 feet. We're lowering them. And I looked at all of we're not requiring a monument sign, but we pulled the monument signs that we have in the city, and the majority of them are under 10 feet. The one at Circle K is, I think, 12 feet. It's a little bit taller. It has a lot of information on there because of the gas prices and what have you. And we also looked at other cities and the county, and 10 feet is like a good approximation. It's what a lot of them have gone for. So I think that would encourage them to have a monument sign, if you're all okay with that, which, are more attractive than the tall 18-foot signs. And those are the changes.
Any additional questions for planning director or the economic development director?
The only thing I have, and I like the direction we're going, I think you're thinking the right way, where we're not necessarily being tyrants about this, but we're trying to encourage people to go a certain direction with your language there. The only thing I do have a question about is, I know we had discussed at one point structural design ordinances or color palettes and things like that. Is that going to be included in this down the road?
That is in the CRA section that we say everybody's got to comply with. That's all in there.
Yes.
So what that means is what's currently being done for the CRA area, the way that they are being reviewed, what you're seeing happening with the buildings is going to apply citywide.
I got you. Yep, that skipped my mind there.
Yeah, so it's like muted tones.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because I think we took the red brick out of that. Did we
No
do
red
that?
brick, no
I
metal
know there was a
buildings.
discussion on the red brick.
Speaking of red bricks, those apartments down there that Miss Judy likes so much, did they have landscaping there? Because I don't see much of it. Did they plant one tree and say we're done, or?
They, as they go along, they're doing it in sections. We did go out there and look at, it was last year or the year before, look at what they were putting in and what they were proposing internally, and it did meet code. As far as around the outside, they did have crepe myrtles in there, which they were supposed to replace. I'll have to have a look. I don't know if they've done that yet. I don't know if they've finished with all that yet. But I can check with Gloria to see if they've still got any COs that need to be issued. And we can go out there and recheck that place, even with the prior owners, had always been a nightmare as far as landscaping, but they were kind of grandfathered in before. And There was that ordinance following the storm that said if a building was being rebuilt on the exact same footprint and it was non-conforming, it didn't lose its non-conforming status. And so they had proved that they weren't damaged by over 50%. And so we're really not able, because of that ordinance, to make them do more than they had before.
Yeah, I know when city manager and I went out there a couple of years ago, that was one of the discussions was landscaping with them. And of course, they wanted a CO, so they're, oh yeah, we're gonna do, it's gonna look like the Garden of Eden time we're done here. And it doesn't, I mean, as we can see.
And we are kind of tied by that ordinance, though.
Sure, I understand. It is what it is.
But if they haven't had their final CO, I'll check with the building department, and I can go out there and take a look and see if they've put back how it was before the storm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that may be something we can talk to our different clubs and organizations. I mean, I know it's a business, and usually you don't want to help a business, just sort of let the business do their thing from a financial perspective. But if it's an eyesore for our community, especially being on our corridor, then they might be more inclined if someone came out and said, hey, we'll plant some trees, we'll plant some shrubs, or maybe even find some type of grant or donation from Home Depot to paint the buildings. I know you were talking about painting the brick at one time, and it was sort of reluctancy because of the ongoing upkeep of that. So maybe some things to consider, you know, that if we can't strong arm them through the ordinance, then maybe we can, you know, play nice and see if they'll let us beautify 77, because that area really is growing there. So we want to keep that as.
Yes, there you go.
That's an
I wouldn't be
idea.
opposed to that, actually.
yeah.
That's an idea. Yeah.
Opposed to that.
So that's something that we might be able to reach out and talk with them about. Okay, any additional questions for our planning director, economic development director regarding this ordinance?
The only thing, I have one more thing here and I'll shut up, and it doesn't really have much to do with you as much as it does just a question for everybody, including myself, but the signs that the students engineered and designed a year or so ago, that's part of the aesthetics too, I think. You know, when you're coming into Lynn Haven and we have that old sign, it doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great either. When are we getting those signs replaced?
That is actually getting ready to go out to RFQ. We're still waiting on the engineering for that, and then it'll go out to RFQ, but it will be much in line with the rebuild. That's one of the things we kind of consulted with Joe Sorcy on, to make sure that it was in line with the rebuild and would look pretty much like.
And then over in that same area, we have the bus stops that do not have the coverings. Would that be TPO? Is that something Pat and I should bring up for the Bayway trolley or whatnot?
The one that's over there by Haney, or is that the one you're referring to?
Joe was doing those as well, like around here.
Yeah, and then in this area he was, but when over there by the car wash and all that, there's a plat there or concrete there, but there's not a bench and there's not a covering, and I didn't know if Pat and I should bring that up or if it falls on us.
By Tuffy, I think there's one by Tuffy, isn't there? Or that kind of area on 77?
Yeah, there's a couple along 77 that don't have a bench or a covering. And the reason I'm asking if we need to get involved in it on behalf of the city, I'm more than happy to do that.
So one of the questions that we did want to ask, because we heard that the trolley was going to be changing its route, that was one of the reasons why we stopped with that, because they were not going to be stopping at particular routes anymore. And we wanted to make sure before we go and spend money, because we have that in the budget to finish, that that is still the case. With that, so really it's something that you guys
redone the routes.
Yeah, you need to verify that. So Joe has done, I think, 3, and those were 2 more to go. So that's one of the reasons we have not finished that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You know, they completely eliminated the route to the industrial park. So that's what they did here. I think the other routes still have the regular stops.
All right, awesome. Well,
So I just want to reiterate then that if there are no changes that you want made to this, the next step is I am going to take it to the planning board in August and then bring it back to you for first reading.
I'm sure after, because we have another meeting before that, I'm sure once citizens read it, provide some feedback, there might be some further questions from the
I
commission.
have
at
to
that
public
point.
notice it tomorrow. I have to send it to the paper.
I understand, but just saying, typically, once the citizens give us feedback, then you know, there might be some changes, so I'm not sure.
Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and public notice it. So, and changes can still be made, but I'm just going to public notice that it's going to be going on the agenda.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for everyone coming out, input, insights, meeting adjourned.